In the end, Sunraku defeated the Dark Lord, and the princess thanked him for his victory. Sunraku noted that he had been waiting a long time for this moment, and then jumped and kicked Furia, saying that she was a threat to the world and would go to hell with the Dark Lord, as the end credits of the Prayer of the Fairy Princess from Fairia Chronicle Online rolled. Sunraku was glad that he had finally finished playing Fairia Chronicle, and that he had finally avenged himself on Furia. In this day and age of display-based games, where fully immersive VR games have become the norm, there are not many great games, and there are many bad games. Most people hate these games, but Sunraku is one of the few who actively seek them out. He puts Fairia Chronicle on his Never Play Again shelf, and confirms that it really is a trash game. Sunraku, also known as Trash Game Hunter, now wonders which trash game he should play next. At school, Rei notices Sunraku coming. She mentally prepares herself to ask him what game he's playing and to tell him that it's a coincidence that she's playing it too. As Sunraku approaches her, she reaches out to greet him, but another classmate grabs his attention and starts talking to him. At the rock roll game shop after school, the owner, Mana Iwamaki, puts up a poster for the upcoming game, Shangri La Frontier. She also mentions that the summer vacation starts tomorrow, which should boost her business. Rei walks into the shop and looks around, but Mana tells her that Sunraku isn't here. She explains that he's playing a trash game, Fairia Chronicle, and that it'll take him a bit longer to finish it. Rei had heard about this game from her sister. It's a legendary trash game, she says, with bad AI ally, crazy enemy attack patterns, and lots of bugs. It takes a very skilled player to defeat the first boss, and many players end up destroying their headsets in frustration. Moreover, you'll need to face the final boss while wearing only shorts and a mask. At this point, Sunraku enters and asks Mana if she has any other lousy games. Rei hides when she sees him. Mana is surprised that Sunraku finished the game so quickly, and he confirms this. He goes on to explain that it's a really bad game, especially because the female lead, Fairia, is the main reason for all the problems during the journey. She consistently makes things worse and even causes harm to villagers and party members. For instance, she drives a carriage, accidentally runs over a villager, blames the Dark Lord for it. If she gets annoyed, she stops moving, halting the story for 3 hours. The reason he sticks around until the end is that, between defeating the final boss and the credits rolling, there's a 3-minute window to beat up Fairia without consequences. However, since Fairia has been quite a tiresome game, he isn't sure if he wants to play another annoying game right after. Mana suggests trying a better game, Shangri La Frontier, which has over 30 million players. Sunraku decides to give it a shot. Back at home, Sunraku reads that the game was released last spring and broke the record for simultaneous player logins. Eager to start, he begins playing the game developed by Utopia Entertainment Software, UES, a company founded by the brilliant programmer Tsukuyo Tsukuri, who created the immersive VR game system. Upon logging in, he's presented with a character creation menu. Sunraku decides to pick his job first and is surprised by the variety of choices. He settles on being a twin-blade mercenary for its flexibility. He chose the Wanderer origin for the luck bonus, which affects his critical hit chance and item drop rate. Then, he designed his character's appearance, which was a bit overwhelming due to his lack of experience with similar games. Fashion isn't his thing, he'd rather focus on weapons over armor. Since he could sell his starting gear and weapons were expensive, he did just that and got 9,000 in-game currency. Being naked, he decided to wear a bird mask to hide his face. He named his character Sunraku, a name he uses in all his games, derived from kanji in his real name. He skipped the story intro and jumped right into the game. Sunraku found himself in a forest, and his movements felt natural. He tested them out and checked the in-game map, expecting to start in a beginner's town. However, he didn't realize that Wanderer origins began in random spots in the beginner's area. He saw he was in the rampant forest near Firstia town and headed that way while exploring. He also checked his stats but got attacked by a goblin. He equipped his mercenary twin blades and easily defeated it with a single hit, leveling up and getting a goblin hand axe as a drop. Sunraku hears a noise coming from the bushes, and suddenly, a Vorpal bunny jumps out and attacks him. He manages to avoid the first attack but is surprised by its strength. The Vorpal bunny attacks again, but Sunraku blocks the strike and lands a critical hit. It tries one more time, but Sunraku is ready, blocking and defeating it. He gains 2 levels from this encounter and checks if the bunny dropped its knife. Instead, he unlocks a new skill called Flash Counter, which boosts his counterattacks. Excited by the prospect of learning various fighting styles, he also realizes there haven't been any bugs in this game unlike the thrashy ones he usually played. Determined to get the bunny's kitchen knife, he sets off to find more Vorpal bunnies. As he levels up multiple times and learns a new skill, Spin Slash, Sunraku realizes that Vorpal bunnies are quite rare, with a low spawn rate. After defeating 50 of them, he finally obtains 2 Vorpal choppers, which increase critical damage. Among the abilities he gains, Screw Pierce stands out as the most useful, offering a quick strike with a compact weapon. Now at level 12, he believes he won't gain much more experience from the local monsters. He consults the map and realizes he has strayed far from Firstia and is near Secondale. To reach it, he must cross a bridge guarded by a tough area boss, the Ravenous Snake. The recommended level for this boss is 10, and it's meant to be fought with a party of 3 people. Anticipating the snake's attacks, Sunraku heads toward this challenging encounter. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the rampant forest in Firstia, a formidable knight awaits. This top-level knight is Rei, and she stands out because she has powerful late-game gear. She's been searching for Sunraku, who's supposed to be in this starting city, but she couldn't find him, so she gave up, thinking she must have missed him. Sunraku faces the boss in the Ravenous Snake area. He starts by observing the boss's attacks and activates Tap Step to improve his evasion. He easily avoids the snake's attacks, thinking that since it's a beginner-level boss, it shouldn't have any one-hit kills, even though he's not wearing armor, which would make him vulnerable. He tries to attack the boss, but his weapon's durability is getting low, and one of the blades breaks. He switches to the Vorpal choppers and prepares to use a move called Screw Pierce. However, the snake spits something from its tail at him, and he wonders what it is. A notification then pops up, saying he's been poisoned and will take damage every 10 seconds. Sunraku feels he underestimated the snake, but he isn't afraid because he had beaten cheaper mechanics before. He figured he had about 4 minutes left before the poison killed him, so he made a plan. He knew the game didn't randomly land critical hits, but they happened when you attacked the right way or hit a weak spot. And since the snake had tough scales, its weak point should be its head. He aimed for the head but found it hard to hit. So, he decided to create his own weak point and used Screw Pierce to wound the snake, then attack the wound for critical hits. But the snake didn't die. It pushed him away, while healing its wounds, and Sunraku realized he was arrogant to think this game was easier than the Thrash game he played. The snake tried to eat him, but he blocked the attack, grabbed its head with one hand, and landed a critical hit on its left eye with Screw Pierce, killing the snake. Sunraku leveled up twice by defeating the snake, reaching level 14. The snake dropped Python Scale and Python White Hair items, but to his surprise, he remained poisoned. He checked for more items and allocated his new stats to stamina and agility before hurrying to the town to buy an antidote. Unfortunately, he didn't know where the shops were, and he also wasn't sure about his respawn point. Meanwhile, at Secondill's entrance, a player named Raiji asked Mia if she'd like to tame a dog-like monster. Mia agreed because she couldn't have pets in her apartment and wanted one in the game. Raiji was excited because he had been trying to get Mia to play SLF with him for 3 months. Just then, they noticed Sunraku running toward them. Mia, fearing he might be a monster, readied her bow, but Raiji stopped her, explaining that Sunraku was a player with a name above his head. He also mentions that if she defeats a player, she'll have a skull by her name. Mia wonders why Sunraku is sprinting, and Raiji thinks he might have been poisoned by a snake. Raiji then tells Sunraku that the inn is straight ahead in the white building, and he should get in bed to set his respawn point. Sunraku thanks Raiji as he passes by. Raiji explains that many players were running when the game had began due to being poisoned by the snake. He also deduced that Sunraku had focused on agility and had sold his armor at the start. Mia notices Raiji's experience and likes it, and Raiji thanks Sunraku for that. Sunraku reaches the bed with just 1 horsepower left, but unfortunately, he dies as his HP drops to 0, and he faces penalties with reduced stats. Sunraku, new to a town in SLF, sets out to explore and do some shopping. He's in search of a map, recovery items, fresh equipment, and a stronger main weapon to replace his mercenary twin blades. Since he's only wearing a bird mask and looks a bit odd, other players start laughing at him. So, Sunraku decides to prioritize buying some clothes. He goes to an armor shop and opts for the cheapest outfit, the split blade leather, made from mud frog skin, providing slash resistance for 4,000 money. He buys the full set but skips the split blade leather mask as it doesn't quite suit him. In a weapon shop, he tries to sell the goblin hand axe, but the NPC isn't interested in that worthless weapon. Sunraku checks the list of weapons the NPC has for sale, but nothing seems better than his Vorpal choppers. The NPC explains that Vorpal choppers are rare, and if Sunraku wants something better, he can craft it if he brings the necessary materials. To travel from Secondill to Thirdrama, the third city, players must go through Dire Marsh Waste. In this area, there's a spot for mining ores. Sunraku goes to mine, hoping for ores, but he mostly gets regular stones, which frustrates him. An NPC had told him he needs 5 or 6 gray ore, but after 30 minutes of mining, he's only found 2. He's also bothered by the mud everywhere, making it harder to move, and his pickaxe feels too heavy. A non-aggressive mud frog shows up and Sunraku tries to ignore it, but it ends up covering him in mud, making him angry. He throws his pickaxe at the frog, knocking it out, and then ran towards it to finish it off, but since his armor is made from mud frog, he figured slash attacks won't work against it, so he only had bludgeon and pierce attacks to use. He equips a goblin hand axe and defeats the frog, getting mud frog skin as reward. Sunraku then spots some new players and decides to go back to mining. He expects more new players would appear, as it was summer break, which will make this place busier with people coming to gather materials. After gathering about a dozen gray ores, Sunraku goes to see the NPC who's quite impressed that he managed to collect so many in just 3 hours. Sunraku even found a marsh coffin fossil, which the NPC can use to craft a marsh dagger. Sunraku asks the NPC to make 2 of those daggers while he goes shopping for maps and other items. When he returns, he receives his marsh daggers, which reduce durability loss by half after a critical hit. The NPC requests more materials for further upgrades, explaining they use magic to enhance weapons. Sunraku is impressed by the NPC's knowledge. As it gets dark, the NPC warns him not to venture out at night in that armor because it's dangerous, but Sunraku is eager and anticipates testing his new weapons on night monsters, despite the warnings. Meanwhile, Rei, unable to find Sunraku in the first zone, assumes he may have already defeated the Ravenous Snake and gone to Secondal without dying. She wonders if a new player can accomplish that. She then confronts the Ravenous Snake and defeats it with a single strike. In the Dire Marsh Waste, Sunraku battles a tough redcap goblin. He had fought night monsters earlier, which were aggressive and made him level up and learn new skills. However, the redcap goblin is even stronger, with more speed and attacks than regular goblins. It also has high HP and uses feints in its fighting style. Surprisingly, the redcap goblin calls for more goblins to join the fight. Sunraku gets ready to face them, but the goblins are suddenly defeated. Then, he spots a unique monster, Lycaon the Nightslayer, a large wolf. Meanwhile, at the video game company's offices, the game's story progress remains at 0% because no unique monsters have been defeated. And with that, we conclude this episode.